Hey folks, it's Jim, it's Julie, it's episode 240! Woo! We have nothing special planned for this episode, yay! Maybe in 10 episodes when we have episode 250.
I planned to woo.
Okay, alright. Well, maybe for 250 we'll do it all as puppets.
Puppets?
Yeah, puppets!
I like puppets.
Me too. But only because it's a job. Alright. So, let's get to some comic book reviews, shall we? And we're going to start off with Dungeons & Dragons.
First up, Dungeons & Dragons Forgotten Realm Cutter, number 1. And in this one, disgraced drow Tosun Armgo has set up shop in a forest with his family and his...
You know, where drows usually hang out.
Yeah. Yeah. And his sword, the Khazid Hay. But Tosun Armgo is becoming old, and it's time for his sword to pass on to one of his children. Either his beloved Domwale or his son, Tyr Flynn, will receive the sword, and it's up to them to battle over who gets it.
Sibling rivalry at its best.
I enjoyed this book. I liked the art. It was a quick, fairly easy read. There's not a lot of dialogue, but there is really nice art, so that makes up for it.
Yeah, it's a really nice fantasy setting, and it really works well.
It's really pretty. I liked it a lot, and I think that you guys, especially if you're a fan of Dungeons and Dragons in any of its forms, should check it out, because it's really good.
Alright, next up we have G.I. Joe, The Cobra Files, number 1. And in this one, her name is Chameleon. She used to be a Cobra agent, but is now a member of the G.I. Joe team. Does she have what it takes to fight on the side of good? Flint thinks she does, and he's willing to gamble the lives of everyone on her.
Huh. Seems like a mistake.
Yeah, but little does anyone know that Tomax is really pulling the strings.
Uh-oh.
Alright. So this one was a bit of a disappointment, to say the least. Not really interesting characters here, and unless you're really into the history of G.I. Joe, you're not going to know who Chameleon is, and they don't really give you a history of who these characters are, which is never a good thing.
I hate when they do that, or alternately don't do that.
Exactly. But I think what really hurts this book is the art. And I hate saying it, but this book would probably look a heck of a lot better in black and white. There are just some aspects to the art that would look so much better in black and white with toning and
I would have loved to see it in a combination of black and white and color.
That would have also worked, but doing it full color just does not look very good.
Yeah,
it really
there were some artistic.
It really muds up the art and really makes it suffer for it, and that really hurts the story as well, in my opinion. But unless you're a gigantic G.I. Joe fan, there's really no reason to pick this one up, so don't.
Next up for me is a one-shot part of the Age of Ultron storyline from Marvel, and this is Ultron. This book entirely follows Ultron's son, Victor Mancha, who used to be a part of the Runaways. And
the Runaways.
It shows us what Victor is going through as an android during a machine apocalypse.
Ooh, that would
shows
suck.
us his struggle really nicely. So, if you're a fan of the Runaways, you definitely need to pick this one up, because it's going to give you...
Quite frankly, we haven't had enough Runaways in the last little while.
Exactly. So, if you're a fan of the Runaways,
and yes, even I enjoyed the Runaways.
You really need to pick this one up because it gives a really good look at Victor. If you are not a fan of the Runaways but have been following Age of Ultron, I still think you should pick it up because it ties in nicely, and I think that we might see more from this character.
Well, that is the hope.
So, Ultron, one shot, pick it up. It's worthwhile.
Alright, next up, a book that we've been waiting about a year for. It's Princeless 2, number 1.
Huzzah!
Hooray! And in this one, now that Adrienne has escaped, she has her eyes set on freeing her sisters, starting with Angelica. But it won't be as easy as she thinks, because the king, her father, believes Adrian is dead and has put a bounty on her supposed killer's head.
Uh-oh.
Which, by the way, her supposed killer is her.
Uh-oh.
So, the king now has 6 eligible knights out on Adrian and Bedelia's trail. And yes, it's just as funny as you think it is. And yes, it's just as good as the last series. And yes, I love it to death. This is just a great all-ages series, and you can't go wrong picking this book up. It's just so much fun. And I don't say that enough about stuff, but this book is just so much fun, and you really do fall in love with the characters as you read it. And even the knights have personalities and everything, and that's great. I love that. And even though you're supposed to hate them, you're like, dear God, these guys are jerks, yet I like their way of thinking sometimes. And I really enjoy that. It's just, they're silly, dumb guys trying to get women, and it makes me laugh. So please do yourself a favor. Check out Princeless 2. Get the trade paperback of the first series. Check out the 2-issue micro-series. It's all good, and I really enjoy it. It's one of the best titles on the book that no one reads. So do yourself a favor. Pick this book up. It's simply wonderful.
Alrighty, folks. Last one up for me today is Batman, Li'l Gotham #1.
Oh, so silly.
So silly. In this, Damian, playing as Robin, gets to experience his very first Halloween.
He's back from the dead! Zombie! Zombie!
It's his Halloween costume. Shh. He gets to experience his very first Halloween and Thanksgiving. I don't want to really talk about this too much because it's an all-ages book. The plot is very, very much on the surface, and I don't want to give away anything because I really enjoyed it, and I giggled a lot.
As did I. I had a chance to read it a bit this morning, and I had some good giggles too. Yeah. There's some really nice puns, and there's some really good sight gags as well.
Exactly.
And I enjoyed it.
I loved it.
It took me a little bit to get used to the art, but once I did and started reading it, it really fell into place, and it really worked well.
It's a watercolor art style, and I just really enjoyed it, especially on the merit that it's an all-ages book. So I think even as adults, you guys should give this one a chance, or if you've got little ones and you're looking for a comic to get them started on, this could very well be the one to start them with.
Alright, and last up for me, and last up for this week, is Mega Man number 24, part 1 of When Worlds Collide. And in this one, when Dr. Wily discovers a Chaos Emerald, it gives him the ability to contact other dimensions.
Uh-oh.
Which leads him to meeting Dr. Eggman, and that leads to 2 worlds in danger and unaware heroes, Sonic and Mega Man, fighting one another. Alright, so this is the big gigantic Mega Man Sonic the Hedgehog crossover that has been, well, pretty much years in the making that no one really ever saw coming. This is a lot of fun. I really enjoyed the art here. It's actually got a really dark storyline to it in a bit of parts, and yet it's still okay for all ages. They don't go too dark, but
I liked flipping through it and feeling like I was reading a video game.
Yeah, and it has that effect as well, which really works well. And they meld the 2 universes together so perfectly, it seems, that it just is a lot of fun to read, and you get it right away. And as a fan of both series of video games, because, well, quite frankly, I own them all, but even the terrible Sonic games, but I just had a lot of fun with this. These are 2 characters that you can't help but really enjoy, and seeing them fight against each other is also a lot of fun. And the camaraderie that you see between the evil Dr. Wily and evil Dr. Eggman, or Dr. Robotnik, as most people call him, is just hilarious.
Agreed.
And the fact is, they're 2 evil doctors but they have the exact same mindset, and everything is agreed upon. Of course, you know that's not going to last, but it's just great to see their minds just percolating at each other, and it's hilariously funny.
I really enjoyed flipping through it.
So if you are a Mega Man fan and a Sonic fan, do yourself a favor, check this one out. I had so much fun with it, and if you're a video game fan, it's worth the purchase. Alright, so that brings us to the close of another exciting episode. We will see you next week when we have to start going through our Free Comic Book Day stuff. Oh boy.
Does Free Comic Book Day stuff start next week? Week after.
Yeah, the shipping
might start.
But either way, we'll talk about that a little later. We will see you next week. Have a good one. Bye.